and welcome to Do the Right Thing, your weekly writing prompt podcast. I'm Matthias.
And I'm Jarvis.
Jarvis and I are the Right Thing boys, which we give ourselves that title because we are aspiring writers. However, we haven't written anything since 8th grade.
Exactly. So we're doing a challenge. Each week we set a timer. Our goal is to write a complete short story in 30 minutes using 3 or 4 randomly generated words.
Then we come on the podcast, we read the stories out loud, we talk about what we learned in writing them, and then we talk about stories written in by you listeners.
Exactamundo. We're simply here to help you do the right thing.
A Doof Media production.
Ooh,
killing it.
Spicy. Like a meatball.
We've been doing this for how many weeks in a row?
We've been doing it for
43 minus 7.
43 minus 7, so 35 weeks.
Jesus. It's like so much. It's so much.
It's not the right math. But yeah, we've been doing this back to back for quite some time. Actually, apparently we've been, starting tomorrow, actually, we would have been doing this for about a year. Yeah,
with a big break in the middle.
A huge break.
But yeah, we started our first episode
February 3rd.
Ish,
yeah. Because I know that's when we made the subreddit.
Yeah.
And I know when we made the subreddit, we did not have an entire episode out by then. Yeah,
yes.
But still, we don't know when we actually posted our first one, even though we could just go back and check.
I'm sure it's all there.
Yeah. But either way, this is our 1 year anniversary, so I expect a gift from everyone who is listening. Small, large, or maybe you can donate to the Patreon.
As part of our birthday gift.
Yes, I'm here to sap money out of it.
What's interesting... What's not interesting? I'm just mad that our numbers are so off.
Yeah.
I'm mad that 43 is the 1 year anniversary. And then the Do the Right Thing contest, by the way, voting is now out, so patrons are currently voting on it.
Yeah.
Next episode won't be the results, although the results will basically be out by then, probably. But our special episode where we'll read the top 3 stories and talk about them.
It's a week after.
Will be the week after next, so it'll be for episode 45.
Exactly. But still doesn't seem right.
Yeah, I put it off a week to have it on a number divisible by 5 because that's really important to me.
It just works out that way. Yeah.
And unfortunately, delaying it until the 50th episode would take a little bit too long.
That would take 6 weeks from
yes.
now.
So you guys
actually
are welcome.
within 6 weeks we will be doing the other or the next Do for the Right Thing contest by then.
Would we? I don't think so.
Because we do it quarterly.
That's every 3 months.
Exactly. So we would have just done the one after next.
I think my conceptualization of math is off from that. But regardless, I do wish we could sync back up. Maybe we should release 7 episodes really quick just to get ourselves up to 50.
Yeah, 7 dummy apps where we just don't even look at our listener submitted stories. It's just us talking. Yes. Not even about stories. It's just like another Right Thing.
I'll just upload 7 episodes of tangents.
Yeah, which is fine because I know before we started recording, we talked for about 4 hours about Transformers, about Power Rangers.
Yes,
all that nerdy shit.
We watched a 20-minute video of all of the Transformers intros, followed by a 20-minute video of all the Power Rangers intros.
35 minutes,
followed by another compilation of Power Rangers theme songs.
Yeah. Followed by the Power Rangers short film that came out in 2015. It's really good. It's like 7 times.
I would say pretty good.
Well, okay. I feel for when it came out, tangent.
I feel that
for when it came out, it did a really solid job at trying to age up Power Rangers because I'm a firm believer.
That Power Rangers should be XXX rated.
It should be XXX rated. I'm talking about Power Rangers titties, power dick everywhere, and blood, guts, bodily fluids, and I want to see them curb stop Rita Repulsa at the very end.
So I've cut all of that.
Okay.
Just for the record.
This week, what are we doing, Matthias?
So this week we are covering the words.
The words which are light, clock, miniature, and upset. And this week, it was a really fun time for me. Mostly because I decided to take 2 characters that I really love. And I decided to sit them down in a diner and talk. This is a very common thing that I do every every now and then just to kind of get a better sense as to who these characters are and how they would react to each other. So that's pretty much my entire story. The words didn't really influence it that much. I don't know, felt like writing this because I kind of want to focus on the craft of characters a lot more, especially going into this brand new year. But how was writing for you?
Not great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna admit. I did write it starting at 3 a.m. after a coffee binge and trying to do a lot of homework and work. I have a real job now. Did I tell you that?
Oh, you don't work at Barnes & Nobles anymore?
Well, I still work there just because I've been putting off telling them that I don't want to work there anymore.
Yes.
So, I do have a shift there on Monday, so it's also my only shift of the week, and it's only 3 hours long, so I basically don't work there anyway.
So you could just keep that job.
I don't want to, though. I'm
Okay.
not gonna. But I have a real job now, so I was working on that, and then I realized, I have to write the story, and I wrote something. It was inspired by people in the Discord talking about mantis shrimp. I'm gonna be honest, it's not very good. I don't think it's very good, but there's some kernels in there, and maybe I'll learn my lesson.
Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, at least you did the right thing.
I did the right thing. The one I didn't use was miniature.
Yeah. On the same token, the one that I did not use was light.
So before we jump into your story, I just want to also announce that there's some cool doof news, and we'll talk more about that at the end of the episode.
Oh, nice!
Yeah, some really awesome doof stuff.
Yeah,
Duff stuff, as the Aussies say.
Ooh, Duff Woof.
Das Doof, as the Germans say.
Das Doofenshire.
Please cut at least half of that sentence. All right, let's jump into your story. Is there anything else we need to know before we get into it, Travis?
So this story is set in the world of
the one that you write about a lot. It's a dystopia. It's not super cyberpunk, but it's a little cyberpunk.
Yeah, it's a little cyberpunk, little bit of a dystopia. More so just a setting where a lot of interesting and crazy characters just walk about. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. And besides that, there's nothing else that really needs to be said.
Okay, let's get into it.
All right. So the title of this one is Quick Lunch. The inside of Rags Bagable had a surprising amount of customers today. Beyond the normals, two homeless dudes on the bad side of a trip stumbled in for some water and made off with some salt packets. A husband and wife had a beer and coffee and figured out it's not going to work. And a schlubby nobody named Jerome had his last meal in concrete before starting his new job in Weekend City. The gray exterior of the bodega was dressed up as some idealistic white picket fence American dream diner and has been a staple of the Concrete City community since it was a very profitable oil rig. A few decades removed, and the side of town it sits on is dead half the time and terrifying the rest. Not only have the roofs and roads and sidewalk and buildings yet to be upkept and fixed since its erection, but that oh-so attractive roughneck smell still sits in the air and seeps its way into every crack and hole it can find. Even with all that, Alex and Tone found a musty back table in the joint comfortable enough to spend a few hours at. They were tight with the new owner, him being on their roommate's payroll and also being their longtime friend and confidant. So the meal was paid for, their seats free. The minimum wage slave they have waiting the table even brought them the TV remote and rotated the flat screen in the opposite corner towards Alex and Tone. Alex looked a bit unassuming. Next to him, his towering friend, he looked like a kind of guy to serve you coffee with a smile and ask you to read his book. Tone, on the other hand, was double wide and triple tall, constituted through and through with pure muscle and boyish looks. Yet he holds himself daintily, slumped shoulders and soft hands. They ordered 2 waters and 2 coffees, each, both tuckered out from a World Star workout. Tone's thin black athletic shirt was still damp from the deadlifts, and Alex suspiciously dry. The coffee came out half frozen and slushy. Tone tossed it back before it reached the table. Coffee's getting better, Tone said, going for his second cup. Alex hung back and sipped the sludge, spitting half back to the cup as soon as the aroma hits. I'd prefer if it wasn't thick. Hey, the job's getting done. Beggars can't be choosers and it's free. Tone pointed a finger at Alex and smiled, wide and showy. Wish-free tastes better. Alex put down his mug and picked up the ketchup red and mustard yellow menu. You gonna order something different today? No, just trying to look busy till the waiter gets here. Trying to see if he deserves his tip. Alex smiles and goes back to the menu, half looking, half thinking over what he has to do today. Well, I'm gonna nab the Rags Flat Burger. Easy, simple, and they even have health-conscious bread options. Tone gave a smile back, but only to see Alex looking like something was gravely wrong. What? Nothing, just... I don't like this new idea that everything under the sun has to be healthy for you. Like with bread, for instance. Shit tastes good when there's no oat and barley in it. So why throw it in to be healthy? Literally just eat less of it and find some lettuce. They sat for a while, in silence. Alex, making his point clear, put down the menu and gave the coffee another shot. Tone, on the other hand, was readying up for a heated debate. I get what you're saying, man, but not trying to flex on anyone, but I do have a nutritional cooking show when we talk about exactly that. It's easier to make a better choice than to outright veto an entire food item. Like here, check out my order. Tone sat up straight and leaned over the table, just enough for Alex to peer over his menu. So I'm getting the flat burger, Blackwood oats, and whole wheat bread. Cheese on the bottom. Tomatoes, pickles, lettuce, how it comes. Instead of mayo, I'm switching it out with that crema Rags just got. Simply healthy and filling enough to not slow me down. At the sound of wood, oats, and whole wheat bread, Alex threw his hands up and shook his head in complete disapproval. That shit sounds gross, he said, visibly upset. I'm here for cheese, meat, mayo, and bacon. If I'm trying to health up my diet, why the fuck would I be at a place called Rags Baguette Bowl? I'm here to eat baguettes, bro. Not some sort of miniature 5-star meal that'll have me feeling healthy and shit. Okay. Tone matches his tone and brings the volume up a bit. Enough to draw stray eyes in the bodega and even cause Alex some shock. See, there's where you're messing up. A healthy option doesn't have to be an expensive one. This flat burger I'm about to absolutely love probably costs less than your bacon, meat, eggs, cheese, steak shit. Yet, another thing I've talked about on my show. First, I gotta say, I mean no disrespect by this, and am so happy and excited you landed this cooking show. But you got 20 viewers a week right now, buddy. And that's because you look like you eat boulders and cook like that friend's mom who you know doesn't season her food. Seasoning detracts from nutrition. Seasoning is fucking flavor. Both men huffed and puffed at each other as the sound floods from the room, leaving way for a distant clock to put in their 2 cents. The boys had a detestable look on their face. Crinkled brow and sharp eyes. But then they both relaxed. A smile and a smirk breaks the tension, and their laughter breaks the silence. Tone's first to speak up. Man, agree to disagree. I care a ton about how I look and perform on the mat, so I have to eat oat and grains to stay in shape. I just don't want your liver to be pickled by 30. An off-duty employee in the shop switched on the TV. On the news, Mayor Waif and Winston Crowd debated head-to-head over the current state of concrete and her citizens. Who are you voting for? Tone asked, finishing up his plate of oats. Not sure about the other guy, but definitely not Waif.
So wonderful story, Jarvis.
Thank you.
You said that you were focusing on these two characters here, and I completely agree. You've really, I could picture these characters. Like I feel like I've seen them before for sure. I feel like it's Alex and Tone, right?
Alex and Tone. Yeah.
So Alex is the skinny one, and then Tone is the. I mean, he's not. He's buff, right? That's
he's
his thing.
super buff.
He's super buff. Which is slightly different from how the character normally is, because normally it's just like a fat guy and a skinny guy, right?
Yeah, I guess the like normal pairing is the fat guy and the skinny guy, and the fat guy.
But I definitely can picture like Alex as like basically looking like a used car salesman.
Yes,
with like he doesn't have the suit jacket, but he does have the dirty tie.
Yeah.
And kind of like them both swaggering in there, and then they like definitely like see themselves as like way above everyone else in the diner, but also like they need to eat at places like this as well, so they're on the same level basically
because they live in the same city.
So I thought these characters were brilliantly characterized.
Oh, thank you.
There was just like a little bit at the beginning that was like you were clearly like just like finding what this piece was going to be about.
Yeah.
We spent like a little bit on like what the diner is, and it's not as relevant as it could be.
Definitely not.
But I mean, that's the beginning of a do the right thing. It's very normal. But then once the characters start talking, then it gets a lot clearer. How early do you think that you got like the grasp on who these characters were?
Well, there's a lot of history here. So
okay.
I've been working with these characters for quite some time, I think. For the last 2 years, I've been working on a pilot and also like a TV series that I really want to write. And these are two of the three main characters in that.
Wow.
But something that I kind of found out is that I know exactly what's going to happen to them over time, but I haven't spent as much time as I would like to just focusing on their characterization, which is why I did here. But I think I have a pretty solid grasp of like who these characters are. I mean, their stories is that Tone is a boxer / wrestler.
Okay.
That's why he's so toned as he is. And his whole goal is to fight this like the greatest boxer in all of Waif named the Mohican.
Okay.
Who is a giant Native American man.
Okay.
But he can't do that because yes, Tone is a good boxer, but no one knows him. Right. So he got a small TV show on Concrete TV.
That's 1 second. That's where I saw the. I didn't see so much of the boxer side. I did see that he was that was his background, but not his motivation. But that he's becoming like a kind of health nut. Yeah, it was interesting. Well, like I found the dynamic really interesting, and like the ironies in that argument where. Like, okay, so starting from the beginning, let's just kind of walk through it, and I'll tell you how I was reacting. So, like, they get in and they're talking about the coffee, and it's really freaking gross.
It's half frozen and sludgy.
Yeah, and so, like, this is a characterization to me of, like, you know, they're swagging around, they think they're better than everyone else in here, and yet Alex is, like, complaining that the free coffee isn't as good as it could be.
As it could be, yeah.
But it's also like he can't afford to get like real coffee either. So, and then we get into this argument with the health stuff, right? Where Tone is arguing for a slightly more healthier disgusting burger, and Alex is going full on disgusting burger.
Full on disgusting.
But what I thought was like really entertaining about it is that like either way, this is going to be really unhealthy for both of them.
Yeah,
like
because they're eating a burger.
Yeah, at this disgusting diner.
Yeah. Rags bag and bowl. Yeah.
Yes. So, just the irony of like someone, you know, like trying to feel morally superior by eating the healthier option when it's like he's just changing the bread to be slightly not as bad, but it's like everything else is just as bad.
It's still like the same meat, same cheese,
and Alex like dismisses it out of hand. Like he's right in this instance, but also like you can see how this argument would lead him to be like super unhealthy all of the rest of the time.
Yes,
yeah. There's a lot to this argument, a lot to these characters, and just the main ironies of them feeling superior, whether or not. I thought was really interesting and really entertaining.
All right, cool. Yeah, I know when I was writing it, I did want to kind of not fully explain, but definitely play on that idea of them feeling like the kings of concrete in some sort of way. Because in a sense, they I guess they kind of are, because their roommate runs all of the underground drug stuff that happens about Concrete City.
Okay, hold on. I understood that the roommate was in stuff, but also they're roommates, they're powerful, but they're roommates.
They aren't powerful. They have no powers.
Well, you said that the roommate runs half the underground crime.
The roommate does. They don't.
Yeah, why is he a roommate if he does that?
Because they're buddies. There's a lot. There's a lot to explain,
okay,
but
sure.
But yeah. So
is that the other protagonist?
Yes.
Okay.
Because there's Alex, and then there's An, which is the other one, and then there is Antonio, who goes by Tone for short, because he's toned up. Is
An the other character that you wrote a couple of weeks ago? The one with the betting, with the sports, with the weird animals?
What? Oh, no. Completely
different character. Cool.
That's in Waif.
Oh, okay. I apologize. This is Concrete. I also would like to point out that the neighborhood in which I live is colloquially known as Concrete City. So.
Yeah, exactly. So I just stole it. So you're living
in... Cement City.
Cement City, which isn't as cool as Concrete City.
It flows a little bit better than Concrete City.
It does.
Cement City.
It's a lot of
instead,
stop
we have a lot of cement.
Yeah. But no, I
really think... good audio we're creating here.
But yeah, so... I was trying to kind of play on that idea that they do have this mentality of feeling better than most people in Concrete, but the fact is that they're still in that place.
Yeah,
because
I mean, Tone has a TV show, and that's normally a place of high prestige. But even then, it's not
that big, because he only has 20 viewers,
and he's still eating at this diner.
Yeah.
So
because there's no money flowing through Concrete.
He's on the local TV station that, and his show comes on at like 2 a.m. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. All right, so I have a question for you about the characterization of this, at least this section of the city. What'd you think about it?
I thought there was some more grime, some more not fun places to live.
Yeah.
My characterization doesn't... I mean, I didn't see that much more than that. Basically, there's just not a good place, and everyone's down on their luck.
It smells like roughnecks?
I wasn't entirely sure what that meant.
So a roughneck is a person that works on a oil rig.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Or just any sort of laborer, in a sense.
That goes from very specific to very vague. Any sort of laborer.
Yeah.
So just like sweat.
Well, if you work in construction, you can technically be called a roughneck, but it is a term that originated and is mostly used to describe people that work in the oil field.
Okay.
And yeah, I decided to add that because in my mind, Concrete City is, as I said, in like an old factory that just stops producing any oil. So then all of the people moved out, and those that were left there live in concrete.
Sounds like a blast.
It is a great blast. There's no vegetation whatsoever.
Of course.
Because it's Concrete City, dog. But, yeah.
Okay. What else can we talk about in this story? Do you have anything else you wanna focus on?
A story like this can only garner so much discussion and leadway, because for me, at least, it was definitely more so of exercise.
Sure, yeah. Discovering the characters and stuff like that.
Exactly, and figuring out how they talk to each other one-on-one. Because I know in a lot of things I've done previously with these characters, it's three of them. You know, the three main characters shooting jokes off of each other, but a dynamic drastically changes once there's just two of them.
Right.
You know, so I don't know. That's kind of what I've gotten from it, is a deeper understanding as to how these two characters, or two characters like them, would interact with one another.
Yeah, I was also wondering how things might look different if you added another character in there, like maybe the waiter has enough of a personality, or the manager, or something like that, and how that would impact the dynamic. Like, Alex doesn't like the new person, and Tony is like trying to manipulate them, or Alex is being straight with them, but also an asshole, you know, that kind of thing, or whatever.
Yeah, because the original idea was to have the character of Rags in there, because he is a character that I do also like working with, but at the same time, he is, of course, the owner of the place, and through him, you could get more backstory into these characters, and of course, the roommate. But of course, you know, time is one big thing that I kind of like hit when I got about halfway through their conversation about how to properly make a sandwich, which kind of like halted that process. Also, I
just want to point out that I found that really amusing, the argument just in general. Like, it was just really entertaining.
Oh, so. Thank you. Yeah. Honestly, that was the whole like reason why I decided to write this, is because I
feel like you've had this argument with yourself.
Oh, a whole but I've had this with my mother. This exact discussion, and also
I assume you were Alex.
No, actually, I was Tone.
Really?
Yeah, because it's better than a healthy option. It's always good for you.
The reason why is because I felt like you were taking Alex's side a little bit more, because Tone was being just a little bit more ridiculous. I'm specifically like, like there's a couple places where like Tone is just wrong, like seasoning detracts from nutrition, where it's like that's not true.
That's not true.
Like, maybe too much salt is bad for you, but that's not true. You know, so.
Well, then, also with that,
But I also thought it was really funny.
Yeah,
so.
and when it came to that point, I was really focusing on what this character would believe.
Yeah.
And thinking of Tone and what he does, he's a professional boxer. He's 3 times, like, taller and larger than everyone else.
Oh, I love that line,
muscle.
by the way, also. The double thick and triple tall.
Yeah.
Or double wide and triple tall. I love that. Yeah. It's a great turn on the phrase.
Because he seems like a giant.
Yes.
Constituted through and through with pure muscle.
Yes.
But yeah, so thinking on that, one of the biggest reasons why I decided for him to not like seasoning is because I feel a person that is that dedicated to their craft and also keeping in mind what his goals are. Fuck seasoning. You have to fight the best fighter in all of WAIF.
Okay.
So I don't know, but
yeah, I thought it was another great angle characterization that he's on a cooking show and he's like, it's not good cooking. It is.
So tangent, but not really a tangent on the idea of this cooking show. I have actually so far started writing, and I'm almost finished with 3 different scripts of 3 different episodes of this cooking show.
The whole thing.
Yes, because the show's called Concrete Cooking.
Okay.
Because I live in Concrete City.
How long are each script?
Oh,
just a couple minutes.
Yeah, like I think the longest one's like 15 minutes.
You wrote 15 pages?
Yeah.
You wrote 15 pages
of a cooking show. Well, see, here's
set in the fictional world.
Well, here's the beauty of it, right?
I just would like to emphasize again that when you're writing scripts, guys, listening in, usually each page averages about a minute of shoot time.
So it's 15 minutes
of on-screen time. So you wrote 15 whole pages.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just is it like real recipes?
Well, see, here's the thing about Concrete City. Everyone there is poor.
Okay.
Like, super poor.
Okay.
So, they are real recipes, but they're using, like, dollar items. So I know for the one that I actually write, it was, fried rice with Spam.
A whole 15-minute show.
It is fried rice with Spam with a side of shredded moss.
Cool.
And because the whole point is to use what you have and make it palatable. Because the moral of this entire quote unquote show is that yes, you do live pretty much in squalor.
Okay.
Right? And things aren't going good for you because you live in this city. but you can still cook yourself a decent meal.
You have to send me over the script. I have to read this.
Oh, most definitely.
Maybe we'll post it as some doof bonus content. $10 patrons and above.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I've written too much in this.
Hey, if anyone out there just happens to be a TV producer looking for a new script writer for a cooking show. It's
me.
Yeah.
I can do it. I believe in myself. Also,
all right, let's move on.
Yeah,
though.
let's
finish that. And then.
Well, I was just saying. Also on the idea of wasting my time writing for real things in this fictional world. I have in the past, like a long time ago, I started writing, and I got to like 35 pages of Waif's personal memoir.
The governor of
this world, yes.
Okay, well, you know what? I mean, that could fit.
Yeah,
I mean, that could be a story by itself.
Exactly, like that's that has more merit in the world than a shitty.
I mean, I can picture
show.
like the difference here is that I'm picturing the memoir as like a primary, like this is what you're reading to learn about the world, right? Because it's from a character, right? And then the cooking show, the way you presented it is it's just a thing in the world. It's
just a thing in the world.
And we're not even watching it. Like that's not part of that's not the angle. The story is not about this cooking show.
Not at all.
Okay.
Complete side thing. But
I don't understand how you have time for this.
Honestly,
I mean, it's super admirable.
I just waste time writing on bullshit.
That's amazing. All right, okay, we got to move on.
We do have to move on, though.
I think you've already basically described what you would do if you were to rewrite this. What do you think you learned? You learned about these characters, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just learned more about these characters. This is a practice I want to do a lot more, especially when I'm trying to figure out a relationship between two characters. So, for instance, I'll probably do this like a totally different time, but instead of these characters with Jack and Spine from all those weeks ago and stuff like that.
I remember that. That was a good story. Yeah. I want you to do that again.
I definitely do. But yeah, so that's what I learned. That's what I got from it. But that's it. I don't want to hear anyone else talk about my idea. What we do need to do, though. So what your idea?
That is so quiet. I don't think anyone's going to hear that. Oh, God.
Let's talk about your idea.
My idea?
Your idea. Or your story.
So, okay, so let's move on to my story. That's what we're doing now. This story is called Samuel's Sea Corner. And it's a little experimental, and mostly just because I just wasn't sure what I was doing.
Yeah.
I know I'm really talking this down. And there's some entertaining stuff in here. I just don't think it's a cohesive whole.
Cohesive?
Yeah, so we'll talk about where I think I failed and how I just need to rewrite things more often. So.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Samuel's Sea Corner. Welcome to Samuel's Sea Corner. Today we're looking at a peculiar little crustacean. Here we can see the humble shrimp going about its day in the rocks within which it lives. But this is not your average run-of-the-mill shrimp. No, this green-hued little guy poking out from between the white stones of the sun-dappled ocean floor is a mantis shrimp, and it is very special indeed. Observe its beautiful multi-hued shell, a vibrant jade green along its caterpillar-like main body, its deep red legs, before it thrusts up, centaur-like, to a kaleidoscopic body of blues and yellows and greens. It is simply a marvel of color. Don't get too close, though, for the mantis shrimp is powerful. Watch this big striped blue getter get too close. The mantis readies itself, swaying in the water like a boxer sizing its opponent, and bam! A flash of light in an instant, and the blue getter is stunned in the water. Instant KO, and the mantis shrimp can go to town with its sharp claws. Did the mantis shrimp just shoot a laser? Let's see that in slow-mo. The mantis shrimp's claws, like its namesake, are long and curved, but these are really hard, like rock. Watch it extend to its full extent. Its speed clocks in at 51 miles per hour. Wow! Imagine punching your arm that fast. The tip of the claw is going super fast, kind of like a whip, and it creates a bubble behind it. But think about it. Where did the bubble come from? Where did the air come from? From the claw? No, the bubble is actually completely empty. It's actually a vacuum, like in space. So when the claw reaches its full extension and the bubble isn't growing anymore, there's nothing keeping it open, and the water around it, under hundreds of pounds of pressure because it's in the ocean, smashes closed. This creates a super strong shockwave and a burst of light from something called a cavitation bubble. Super cool, right? The mantis shrimp is also really cool because it can see so many colors. Where humans have 3 color receptors and can see about 6 main colors with shades in between, red, green, blue, yellow, purple, and orange, the mantis shrimp has between 12 and 16 color receptors, and somewhere between 500 million and 20 trillion colors. This goes all the way from ultraviolet to infrared to polarized light. It's hard to imagine what mantis shrimp perception is like. Also, each eye individually has trinocular vision. I have no idea what that means, but our human eyes combined create binocular vision. Anyway, it's gotta be beautiful. 1 billion individual colors, as fundamental and nuanced as our greens and reds and blues and everything. We find their rainbow coats complex and gorgeous, but maybe to them having all 6 colors on a single body is as bland as browns. What kind of art could a mantis shrimp create, if it could? Alone, what paints would it mix? What wondrous, intricate details would it recreate from its perception into reality? But the mantis shrimp cannot create, nay, it can only destroy. Its vacuum bubble strikes are punches of nothingness which destroys even more. How tragic that the mantis shrimp, with the capacity to see the world in so much depth and beauty than us mere mortals, 1,000,000 trillion times more beauty, is made to, no, cursed, to be incapable of creating beauty itself. The ability to see true potential, what things could be, but to only have the ability to destroy. Oh, the crushing disappointment of it all. It can see true potential with those eyes, like what true love might be, like what we could have been. Sandra. If it wasn't for those goddamn claws of mine, that are just made to break things. Guys, do you ever wonder how the mantis shrimp goes on sometimes? How it can choose to just keep going when it knows that all it will ever do is break the things it loves? To know that what it can see out there is so much better than it will ever accomplish, and that anytime it would get involved, it would just make things worse? Okay, stop showing the mantis shrimp. Stop the footage. Can you just put on the jellyfish for a minute? Sorry, guys. I know I keep doing this, keep getting upset when I'm looking at shrimps. I told myself I wouldn't do another shrimp episode for a while, and here I am again. You just came here to listen to some cool fish facts. I know, and here I am dumping all my stuff again. I just can't help getting emotional. Okay, let me just take a second. Put on the jellyfish. Okay, that's better. Look at that free-floating jellyfish, surrounded by glowing blue plankton, just sitting out there in the wide ocean. It's alone, but it seems content, just to go with the flow, happy in its surroundings, just that gentle swish in and out, like breathing. You guys are good fans, you know. Never complain, just let me do my stuff. It's so sweet of y'all. I'm sorry I'm getting emotional again. Wait. Oh god, no. The turtle. Watch out, jellyfish. Look behind you. No! I think I need to go to bed. I'm just tired, guys. I think we're all like the mantis shrimp sometimes. Anyway, thanks for sticking around with me. I'll have some more cool facts next time. I think I just need, like a break from this whole thing. I just need to stop moving forward for a second, I think. Anyway, next episode's going to be about sharks. Fun fact, if they stop swimming, they die. See you next time on Samuel C. Corner. Bye. Smash that like button. So, that's Samuel C. Corner.
So first and foremost, you have a tremendous talent at downplay. the things.
Okay.
Because I personally really, really like this, only because it reminded me so much of those, like, kind of really shitty... those... Okay, so on the Discover Channel, right, they would have spots where they would cover one animal.
Okay.
And it's always, like, crazy and cool and wacky. Like, yo, this animal, he can run on water. Like, it's just really weird things. And this carries that tone across so much.
Yeah.
That I absolutely loved all of it. And then also it seemed like a natural deviation, at least when it comes to the things that you write, where it would turn from this cool, wacky thing into, personal trauma, but it's still cool, wacky, and also funny. So I don't know. I just think this reminds me so much of, like, one of those rare, good SNL sketches.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was aiming for. I think me voice acting it probably made it a little bit better, because I think in the actual writing, there's actually, like, not a lot of, like, signifiers of how things are supposed to be read.
Okay.
So I think the listening experience of the story is going to be a lot better than the reading experience of it. Which is great, because because we post our stories at the last minute, I don't know how many people actually read our stories before.
So they're only going off of it.
Which is wonderful. So, but yeah, there's a lot of other stuff I want to do in this. I wanted to dive more into the relationship stuff and, like, make it, like, expand that out, and also make it feel more natural.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up just keeping it pretty limited. I think it would have been worse if I'd overreached and failed.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, definitely, I think the amount of this relationship that you put in this was really good. Also, while also looking at the length of it, and of course how much time you have to actually write it, and also it just being a, like, short story, I think it was a really nice progression in tone that went from cool, crazy facts about the shrimp. Did you know they create voids? Like, that was really fun. Till the line which I expected, but also I thought, okay, that was fun, was when he said, I just need to stop moving forward. And then next week, did you know sharks die if they stop moving forward? Like, I was like, okay. Yeah. I get it, but I also like it.
Sure.
You know? Like, it's natural, right? And I think that's definitely, like, the strength of this, is that there's such a strong voice.
Okay.
And that's definitely the thing that made it fun to, like, read throughout. Whether it's listening to you talk about it, or also just reading it off of the page. It's still, like, most of it does come across, but I definitely feel like, unless, like, if you didn't know what you were going for, you would be lost.
Yeah, like, when I first wrote it, I knew that I was going to be doing this sort of, like, the narrator breaks down a little bit, but, like, I didn't know what it was coming from, so I added back in this welcome to Samuel sequence at the beginning, and I think that's, like, a really small touch, and it's not, like, a sophisticated touch or anything, but I think it's, like, a really important signifier of, like, hey, we're listening to something and we're watching something. Yeah. Like, this is what you're supposed to be picturing. Actually, one thing I was wondering is what do you think the medium of this is? Like, in the reality of it, what is it?
In the
like, reality, what is Samuel C. Corner? Like,
so basically, what I see is a segment on the Discovery Channel that comes on at about 2:14.
Okay.
A.M. Yes. So no one's watching it, but it's like a 30-minute block, and it has footage of these animals specifically shot from, like, 1995. Okay. So it's kind of fuzzy, but you can, like, still see what's going on with just this dude talking over it. Okay. And then sometimes there might be some sort of crazy edit where it's like they'll, like, zoom across, and then but you have, like, speed lines with zoom on it.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Very fun, very light, mostly catered towards kids.
Okay,
that's what I'm getting.
Yeah, I was aiming for it to be more like a fan made YouTube channel thing. Okay. But I mean, that works too. I'm just glad that you were able to picture something visual with it, because I was worried that this might come off like it's supposed to be a podcast.
Mm-hmm. Well, then also you said, like, in the middle, he said cut the footage, or, like, switch to the jellyfish, which, I mean, that is a very clear indicator that it is definitely a visual medium.
Yeah.
But I feel if you are worried about that, something like that should probably be said earlier in the beginning. Because I feel that the only reason why I completely got it is because first I've seen a lot of stuff like it, like the actual films that you are mimicking. And also, I just see things in pictures. But I feel that if you're worried about the audience not getting it, just saying, like, look at the sea shrimp, right?
Yeah.
Like, I feel that is enough. And then you can describe exactly how it's moving in the novel.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I can picture how there might be a little bit more... not like set dressing at the beginning.
Yeah, but at the same time, personally, I feel that it is enough.
Okay.
You know?
Good. Yeah, so there's some other stuff that I feel like could have... some other angles that I feel like I could have explored. Some more like resonances between the qualities of the mantis shrimp and the qualities of Samuel's relationships falling apart or whatever. Like, I had something in there that I was going to pursue about, you know, how did they mate? How does that reflect on it? But I never got quite around to them. And that just comes from writing at 3 a.m. and then refusing to rewrite it because you're tired. So.
Also, I see that there is a lost section here when they're talking about the void that the shrimp builds in this bubble, like the void that he feels on the inside. Yeah. But I think like the most fun part is when he starts talking about color and how we can only see 3, the main shrimp can like see 12, and then there was this like building that was going on. Yeah. How you can tell he's just getting more like manic. Yeah. As it's going, and by this point, I don't think you even mentioned his personal his personal turmoil with this relationship, which I think personally was really nice because it was building to that point, and they're like, "Oh, I get it." Okay, right. So
okay, I'm really glad that it did build to somewhere. There's probably more that could have been done there, but like,
yeah, I mean, I think honestly, the thing that could make it better would be if, of course, you have more time so that you can make this whole angle of him being in this relationship that's not working out more resonant. Because as soon as I realized, oh, this is about a relationship, and then that happened for a bit, it felt like when he moved on to like the next time on, it was too sudden. Yeah, I agree. I feel that there are so many more connections that you can build between these sea creatures and his relationships. Of course, that would just make it longer.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely some more foreshadowing and extensions I could have built on it. Like something about, you know, the mantis ships have these shells that protect them from the dangerous world outside that's always out to get you, and it never lets you rest. And then every time you think that you find someone, it actually is just a way to get under your shell and at your most vulnerable parts. Like, if he just says the whole thing perfect, there, but, like, doesn't mention Sandra specifically, and we're just like, that's a really weird way to phrase that.
I think the mentioning of Sandra is the only part that, like...
Did it took away?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Only because of where it is placed. I feel something like that should be placed at the tail end. Sure. And for the rest of it, he's talking about this person vaguely.
Yeah, in like, maybe like in denial that he's actually talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I agree. Feel, of course, the complexity of these emotions, if you were to delve in deeper with it and find out ways for that to more naturally come about as he's doing his like segment, that would be good. But for what it is, I completely dig it.
Okay, good. I'm glad that it turned out okay.
So on a rewrite,
I've already discussed pretty much what I'd rewrite. Yeah, I would just more foreshadowing, make it clearer, make sure there's resonances between the qualities and all that.
But the question is, did you learn anything?
I think I learned that I need to give myself more time, and I need to...
A common lesson.
Yeah, of something that I relearn every week. Well, no. Do I really learn it?
Never learn. Yeah.
But that's college, right?
Yeah.
But I think this let me... Like, I think I got slightly better at putting in character thoughts into character narration.
Definitely.
And that's what this story is kind of supposed to be about, so...
All right, cool. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm happy that you accomplished that goal in this piece that I think is a lot better than you give yourself credit for.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. And speaking of credit, we should give credit to all the people that submitted their stories this week. Now, first and foremost, we have to tell you, this next section where we're going to talk about these stories, you should go and read the ones we're going to talk about before we even start talking about them. Because, of course, we are kings at spoiling things. We'll tell you everything about them, so you might as well read it up a little bit so you know exactly what we're talking about.
So what Jarvis said, we're going to completely spoil the stories that we're going to talk about, and they're absolutely worth reading on their own, especially if that twist and stuff like that. So I recommend you pause this podcast, go to episode 43 on /r/do the right thing on Reddit, and read the stories. And specifically, read the stories by Zakatigi,
Micey 1,
Haunt of the Heron,
It's All Uphill, and then Wildbow.
And Wildbow.
Yes.
Who wrote a great story this week. So I'm looking forward to talking about these. All the ones I specifically want to talk about were actually rolled, so that was really convenient.
Yeah. So please, stop, read, and come and listen.
Yeah, so of course we can only talk about 5 stories per week just because there's so many submissions.
There's so little
we will
time.
make sure to thank everyone that submitted at the end here. And also we're going to give shout-outs to people who commented because that's such a wonderful way to keep some community, cross-editorializing and constructive criticism and stuff going, because I think that's super useful. And it's this episode and last episode, you guys did a really, really great job.
A fantastic job.
And it was super encouraging to see. So.
Yeah. So first up on the docket will be Zakatigi with The Clockmaker's New Hands.
That's right. So this story is follows Paula, the new... I kind of understood her as like a street urchin that was like just brought in, just decided to come help out at a clock worker's place, just to have a place to work and get some money and not starve on the street or whatever. And the clockmaker is going over and fixing this little tiny metal soldier, clockwork soldier, like just a toy. And he talks about how the soldier is kind of like speaking to him and telling him, like, just by listening, he can understand what the problem is. And Paula is, like, kind of entranced by this. She, like, really loves what the clockmaker does. And the clockmaker then hands her a little metal bird, or little metal beetle, my bad. And she treats it with the proper, like, the same care that the clockmaker does. She's not just, like, a random child that doesn't appreciate it. She just doesn't want to break it.
Yeah.
And he tells her to listen to it too. And there's kind of like this magic moment as she winds it up, and at the end it starts singing. Although, so I thought it was a beautiful moment. We're left not sure if there's an actual magic to it, or if it's just that it's a magical moment to this character. So I thought it was really I don't want to say mystical, but like,
well, it did have that, like, as you said, magical or like mystical sense to it, to where you're not surprised if this is a magical moment, but at the same time, it is rooted in a sense of realism. Yeah, that I don't know. I really, really like it for that fact. Yeah,
I thought the character of Paula being. She's like afraid of her own voice because it's not as full of care as the clockmaker, even though the clockmaker is like shaking all the time. And I just thought it was really sweet showing this interaction between these two characters and how Paula might grow up to do what the person she admires does.
Yeah, exactly.
So great job, Zakatigi. I know that you're also a new writer, so thank you for joining along with us.
Yeah. Next up is Haunt of the Heron.
Yes.
With Enough Time.
Yes. So I love this story.
It's very good.
I love this story a lot, and I was really looking forward to talking about it. So just for a summary of it, we have this very abstract first half, where to me, it sounded like the beginning of a universe. But we slowly come to understand that we're actually in a dream. This character, Sasha, is trying to walk along this path between this void that if she thinks about it, she'll kind of fall into it. And there's this really like abstract, but kind of really really entrancing imagery of like the invisible light, basically, and it's very interesting. And so we really get this feeling that she has to like measure her own thinking to make sure she doesn't go anywhere too bad. And then we cut to the second half where she's arrived at this beach at this island, and we kind of go on to understand that we were actually in the dream of this old man that is there, and she has this conversation, and she's trying not to let him know that oh my gosh, I'm saying she this whole time. I'm pretty sure Sasha's non-binary. That's not good that I misgendered them this whole time. Haunted the Heron actually specifically goes out of the way to use they them pronouns. I forgot. Oops. That goes to show that we all gotta get better, because I specifically remember observing that and like taking that in and be like, oh, that's cool, and then not. I forgot. So goddamn.
So it's bad on your part.
Yes, goddamn gendered names.
Yeah, and like Alex.
Oh,
Alex is a unisex name.
Sasha's definitely gendered though.
Is it?
I think so.
I've met a male Sasha.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
He was German.
Anyway, so going forward, sorry about that. Haunted the Heron, I just totally misgendered your character. That's not good of me.
Yeah, do better.
Sasha's trying not to let the man know that they're in his dream, but they keep like leaving hints because they're dealing with a lot of stuff, and it's hard to not mention it.
Yeah.
And so he gives them like some really like generic advice, basically, but it might actually be what they need to hear before the dream ends. But what I really like is the description of the dream. Like as they're sitting and talking, it's really interesting how the setting that they're at like shifts in a dreamlike way, but it never feels like too strange. Like just like new details appear where there weren't some before. Yeah. Like putting down, they're having tea and putting down like the tea into a clock saucer, and we didn't know that there were saucers in the first place, but of course they're clocks, because why not? Because it's a dream. And then like the desk at the table that they were eating at is actually on the floor, and then it's not again, basically. So really interesting stuff like that.
Yeah. And honestly, I think, as you said, that's like one of the coolest parts about it, is just the building of this kind of dream-like state, and also just how many layers there really are to it. Like, I love, like, one of my favorite part is the first half, right? Because I love this kind of like abstract way of describing this void like dream space. And then as it goes on, there's this natural progression to it, but you still never lose like the core of what it feels like, right? And I think I really love it for that, and especially the back and forth between Sasha and this old man feels very natural and characterized in a way.
Yeah, I actually specifically want to pull out some part of the description. When we first get to the island, I'm just going to read the paragraph because I really enjoy it so much. Mm-hmm. So we cut from the initial part of the dream state, which is even more abstract, to space has form. A beach. A wave crashes against the shore, white froth gliding across black sand. Its strength fails at last, and the water is dragged backward into the riptide. A small fraction of the sand is drawn away, and it does not return. The water extends to the horizon, beyond, above. It slopes upward at either side and at the end. The ocean radiates from the sun, devouring the sky, waves spiraling downward onto the island. So it's really fucking cool.
Yeah.
And then we go on to further description of what's going on in the same kind of slow, methodical pace. But I specifically love the first couple of lines that ending with a small fraction of the sand is drawn away and it does not return. Just a wonderful description and just the scene setting of this one particular wave crashing, pulling back, and the implications of that. I thought it was just beautiful.
Yeah, very well,
and
well crafted.
Might steal some of it.
Oh, I'm definitely going to steal all of it.
So
actually, if you didn't know, Do the Right Thing is just a huge think tank for me. By the time we get to about episode 257 is when I should have enough creativity and lines
to reach our final forms.
Yeah, so that I can release the first novel.
Yeah, just birth it. At once.
Just comes out of my
Yeah, I'm actually gonna write my novel exclusively from plagiarized bits of all of your stories.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna copy paste paragraphs here and there, and eventually I'll have enough to just make something of my own. So.
Yeah, because I mean, casa e su casa.
I don't think. So yeah, great, really wonderful story. Honda the Heron, and I recommend everyone listening to go check it out because it's really a wonder to read. So
very much so.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
So up next is My Z1 with Audible.
That's Elliot from our Aussie boys on the Doof Network.
The Aussie boy
from Media MD and Deep Impact. So we talked about in the Discord. We've mentioned. The Discord recently, in the past couple of months, got really obsessed with the Magnus Archives, a spooky story podcast.
Yeah.
And Elliot was talking about how this story was inspired by that, which is spoilers. So this story is called Audible, and we have this. We start with what's the word? An exposition about talking about those completely soundproof rooms in the Orfield laboratories in Minnesota, where they specifically made a place where there is no outside sound at all, and the only sound would come from whoever's in it, and how people are said to go insane because they only hear themselves. They can't escape the sound of themselves. And it's a really great scene setting as we're talking about insanity and talking about the sounds of our own bodies going on. Before we then find our characters talking about going into caves, that it's a way to experience true darkness. You know, there's no light possible down there. And we understand that they've gotten lost in the cave. Everyone else that they were with is gone. The only thing creating any noise, any stimulation at all, is a watch that's just ticking away. Because their senses have been like heightened and stuff. And so they're just like holding on to that one sound because it's the only sound outside of themselves, because if they only hear themselves, they'll go crazy, basically.
Yeah.
They're trying to find a way out, but in the process, they find their broken watch and break it in the process, leaving them only with the sounds of themselves, and they go truly mad. And it's very spooky, it's very atmospheric. It's yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely. So. As I was reading through it towards the end, as soon as the watch came up, I knew, oh, this has to break, because the exposition of what they're sending us towards. And yeah, I just love the description. I love following this character's thought throughout at least the first half of it, and how it kind of, in my mind, cascades down to this scene. And I think the ending is just very perfect. It leaves this very unsettled feeling in me. And I think that means it accomplished its entire point. So yeah, I really liked it. I love the final line, "I hear me and I cannot stop." Yes. It's very spooky. I will never want to hear me.
There's some really wonderful comments, talking about it.
Yeah.
Kippos puts forth the theory that the watch was actually broken the whole time, and that they were just imagining the sound as a way to keep the sound of themselves at bay. And then when they realize that it was broken this whole time, that's when they break for real.
So, like the watch.
Yeah, I also, having listened to the Magnus Archives, I know and can picture how this relates to that one episode that we're thinking of. Everyone that's listened to the Magnus Archives. So.
Oh yes, that one
cave episode.
Yeah. Number 3, right?
It's pretty early on. It's like 13 or something.
13? I've never seen the Magnus Archives.
You don't see it. It's a podcast. So,
do you not watch your podcast?
Oh, you watch it. You watch the picture of it as you listen.
No, I print out a transcription and then I read it as I also listen to it.
Okay.
So next up on the list,
that peaked so hard. Next is by It's All Uphill with High Expectations. So, High Expectations starts off with this narrator talking about how being a god isn't so great.
Yeah.
So we get this perspective of a god. It's someone that ascended from mortalhood into being a god. And we kind of understand that this is...
Madoka.
I think it's pronounced Madoka. This mortal that ascends to godhood, and we kind of understand that it's in this fantasy world, and we don't really go into depth about what it is. We just understand that it's not the modern day. It's a polytheistic world, and there's this really great abstract description of what it might be like to become everything and nothing at the same time and experience everything and nothing at once, and how there's some really nice little lines in here as the deity relates to the beings on the world. Every now and then we might drop off a message in the head of one of you beautiful little existence machines. Which I love that line, and I'm not the only one that pulled out that line in the comments. Sarah Penguin did as well. But basically we figure out that in this world, the gods are not like super powerful. They can't move mountains and things like that. For the most part, they can just like send messages to people, and they're not all knowing, but they're more knowing. They know a lot. Yeah. And so they can do stuff that way, but their agency is really limited to the people, the humans, hearing their messages and doing stuff with it. And I thought it was a really interesting take on the deities of worlds and stuff, that they're actually like maybe even smaller than us in a way. And that grants them power, but also not nearly as much power as we grant them credit for. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think the thing that I like the most about it is that every line is something to really chew on, right? And especially as you're going through, you're finding out more about this world, but more also about what it means to be a god within this world. And I've always really liked playing with the idea of like what a god is, and I think this is a really nice take on that. And I think for that reason, that's why I really enjoy it so much.
So I really enjoyed the story, and I really liked the take on these things. It was a good experience to have.
Exactly. And next up is Wildbow with Wrong Lesson, Wrong Time.
I don't know why, but like that particular cadence of it is like the wrong one. Wrong lesson, wrong time. I don't know. But yeah, so this is so thank you so much for submitting Wildbow.
Wonder Bread.
Who was talking about how do the right thing is actually sometimes a real challenge for him. So I don't know, that was like encouraging. I was worried when Wildbow said that he was going to be doing do the right thing sometimes, that it would just be like just a breeze and just like that he wouldn't get that much out of it. But it seems like it's actually challenging him. It's a different way to write, the 30-minute sprint. If, don't even think about it beforehand and just go. Yeah, is definitely probably different from his normal writing style. And so yeah, I'm just glad that he's seems to be getting something out of it. So.
Yeah, exactly.
So the story he wrote was a wrong lesson, wrong time. And we get this scene of a class just starting. We're in the perspective of the teacher who has been in the game for probably too long. And he's just really annoyed with all of these students who just taking too long to get started.
They are annoying.
Yeah. And he's allowed a specific time to take this test. And he just wants to be on schedule. We also get like this really, I don't know, the description of the classroom. It's a very short description of just the artificial light of the fluorescent bulbs was especially bright given the gloom outside. It was storming, and a look at the windows at the end of the hall showed more rain reflecting the light than it showed anything beyond. Bright classroom, darkness outside. Perfect. So, I don't know, there was just, like, I've been in that classroom and it's not been a good time.
Yeah, it is never a good time.
With gray walls. And anyway, so we get this run-through of the teacher's perspective, John Haynes. I wanted to call him Dr. Haynes, but no, just Teacher Haynes. He's like, he just wants to wrangle these kids, and they just won't listen to him. And he's got that one problem student, Alexander,
who's too cool for school.
And so we get this kind of whole snapshot of what this classroom is like, and how jaded the teacher is. None of his students ever like stick around after they leave. Basically, they the only ones he remembers are the problem students, basically.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's like finally just trying to wrangle these students. So he's starting to like give them bad marks, like on their test for like talking and stuff like that. And so finally, this last girl comes in, and we've had some foreshadowing for this, but she's actually just been broken up. Mm-hmm. And so she sits down and she's late. So he like gives her some bad marks and turns the bad situation even worse. And we're like, God, Haynes, like we get it. Like he's doing it just because it's like, he's doing it in an effort of like toughening up his students of like, hey, sometimes you're going to have bad days that get worse and you just have to learn to deal with it. But also he's definitely being a dick. Like he doesn't have to do it that far.
He's being that uncool teacher that we are super excited to not have his class next year. Yeah.
And so, this is the instigating conflict to like the real conflict of the story, where, Alexander, the problem student, decides that he's gonna take a stand. It's like, no, Brooklyn, who's crying now, deserves to be able to go to the nurse's office because she was just broken up just now. And, Alexander starts trying to take control by like, directing students of like, okay, this person, these people can take her to the office. She can cry it out and stuff. And Haynes takes the hard stance of no, my way or the highway. Like this is the lesson I'm trying to impart, and she's going to learn it. And it just keeps escalating as neither backs down until Alexander is basically blackmailing Haynes, and it's like super dark, where like he's like going to have the whole class lie just to ruin Haynes's career just so that he can get his way, which like Alexander's like he's like he has a good cause, right? He wants to just have this girl be able to just have her her 20 minutes alone,
but his means
to get back.
His
means are dark. And then like Haynes, he has a point too of like, sometimes you do have to learn this lesson. Mm-hmm. And like so this escalation of wills, and finally, we end up empathizing with Haynes as he describes, his lesson of like, hey, I've tried to toughen you up because the real world is so much worse. And we get like a snapshot of like, John thought of his wife's cancer scare, the terror. And it's like, he has real personal motivations. He is trying to make them be able to deal with the real world better.
But
so it's this wonderfully complex thing.
Linking back to the actual title, it's the wrong lesson, wrong time.
Yeah, it's the wrong lesson at the
wrong time.
Yeah, if he taught this lesson when a girl wasn't crying and when Alexander wasn't in this class,
But, overall, it is a masterfully crafted story. I'm surprised that this was made in 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm. I think he admits that it was written in 40. So, sorry, Wild Boy, you're disqualified for further submissions.
You took an extra 10 minutes.
Said Matthias, who regularly takes an hour to make sure that everything's okay.
Exactly. But, honestly, like, the characters are, like, realer than life. I love the back and forth between certain people. I do like how Mr. Haynes and Alex are, like, cut from the same cloth. It seems like they're two different sides of the same coin, which is why they're both these immovable objects just clashing into each other, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, Alexander's the idealist, and like the thing is that another perspective of this, analyzing, each character is that like Alexander is learning a lesson. He's learning a lesson of like, let's stand up to people, right? And to defend people, and that's a good lesson to learn in a classroom. So like it's not like he's learning nothing, right?
Yeah, and it's just the wrong lesson.
Yeah, and Haynes is just like refuses to recognize that. Like there's so many other ways that this could have gone. If he had just given in and like, okay, we have to have a serious talk about this. You can't do that anymore. You can't disrupt my classroom, but also fine, Brooklyn, go ahead, go to the nurse's office. And it ends with, Alexander for the most part wins.
Yeah.
Brooklyn gets to go to the office. One girl goes with her. And Mr. Haynes, at the end, we get this, like, everything that Haynes was trying to go for is lost because he was keeping an eye on the time this whole time. And the 15 minutes that he allotted for the test are over. So it's like,
Yeah, it's just ruined everything.
Yeah, his whole plan is gone.
Which 15 minutes is not enough time
not much for a test. It's a little quiz, but
it's less than a quiz. You
anyway,
get to answer 10 questions.
This is a lot of words just to say that this is a very thematically and not morally, motivationally complex story.
Yeah,
where
definitely.
you're not entirely sure which side to be on. Mm-hmm. So
I think that's the tell, right?
Yeah.
That's a tell of something that is written very well. Is that after reading it, I was like, well, they're both right.
Yeah, and they're both wrong.
And they're both wrong. Yeah,
like don't blackmail your teacher,
but don't not let your student who's having a really hard time have one off.
Yeah,
right. So.
Yeah.
There's lessons all around. But I think the biggest lesson that we've all learned is that doing the right thing can be beneficial. Especially towards all those.
You just jumped over so many things. You jumped over like 10 little segments, 10 of our little segments. You can't.
But I'm gonna loop back. I always loop back, Matthias.
Okay, anyway. So this is not the end of the podcast.
Yes.
So first, I want to thank Wildbow and Zakatigi and It's All Uphill and Haunt of the Heron and Mizey One, of course, for submitting. Mm-hmm. And I want to give a thanks to everyone else who submitted as well. And I'm probably going to just say these names again because I'm reading them in the order that they were submitted in.
Thank you so much, Meteora22.
Thank you to
Zakatigi.
Thank you to Kippos21.
Thank you, Wildbow.
Thank you, LucasOp86.
Thank you, Ace of Sword.
Thank you, Sir Raven.
Thank you, Haunt of the Heron.
Thank you, Shin7.
Thank you, No Goodbye.
Thank you, Kausubalu V2.
Thank you, Reddish Kangaroo.
Thank you, Generous Nat.
Thank you, Dravenui. Thank you, Dravon Neil. Thank you, Dravonio.
Who I'm pretty sure is a new submitter. Thank you so much for joining us.
Please tell me how to say your name.
I think it's just Dravonio. It's like not even that complicated.
Listen, my eyes don't work right.
Okay, sure. And of course, thank you to Elliot from
MD
and
Mr. One.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you, It's All Uphill.
Thank you, Kyrgyzstan.
Thank you, Sarah Penguin.
And thank you, Corona Palencia, who I know was just joining in after a long hiatus.
So thank you for being back, and also thank you to every single last person that submitted. Without you, there's no point in our doing this. You make our lives all the more worth it.
So I'm gonna just yell at the usernames as I see them. I want to thank Sarah Penguin and Kippos21, as well as Asimator, who didn't submit a story but did comment. So I really do appreciate that.
Yeah.
And maybe consider leaving a comment as well. And then of course Lucasop, who was talking in their own story, Ace of Sword as well, Haunt of the Heron, Sir Raven, Dravonio, Reddish Kangaroo, and a Wildbow as well, for leaving comments. Kyrgyzstan and Mizey One. So thank you so much for leaving comments. You guys did like. I was reading through some of them, and they were enhancing my read of the stories, and I know they were really helpful to the people that received them. So please, I mean, it's an honorable thing to do, and it's good for you as well to be able to look at someone else's story and be able to reflect on how you felt about it. It helps your own writing.
Yeah.
So
also, it is a major part of doing the right thing. Not only writing your story and doing it within the time limit, using the words, but also giving feedback to someone else that did the exact same thing.
Yeah. And leave comments on your own stories too. You know, how did you feel writing it? Is there anything that you're unsure about? You know, people love to answer questions too. So if you ever just ask, hey, did this come off this way? People will tell you. So
people are more honest than you would think.
Sure.
So if you want to know how to be exactly like our listeners and viewers and people that have submitted their story, well, you can see all of the brand new words on our Twitter, which is at RightThingCast.
And if you want to send us in a story because you don't have a Reddit account or whatever else, or just send us in a question or feedback or just want to say hi, you can send us an email at rightthingcast@gmail.com.
Exactly.
So we are also proud members of the Doof Network, which I'm so excited about. I'm going to spend a good little bit here talking about the awesome stuff that's going on.
Of course, there's so much.
So starting with the biggest thing, as of 2 days ago of when this comes out, we have a new podcast on the network.
Woo!
We're welcoming to the Doof Network. We Want More, or We Want MOR, a Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality analysis podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So for those who, so the two co-hosts. Steven Zuber from The Basing Conspiracy and some other podcast, and Brian, a first-time reader of Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality, go through about chapter by chapter, going through the reactions and analyzing the story in a We've Got Worm/Ward and Deep Impact fashion, with their own twist, especially just given the context of the story.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality is probably one of the most well-known Harry Potter fan fiction out there. It was written by Eliezer Yudkowsky, a central figure in the modern rationality movement kind of thing, who wrote it as a kind of introductory text to rationality and to get people interested in it. So basically, the premise, I've read the story and I really enjoyed it. The premise is basically Harry Potter, instead of being raised by the Dursleys, was raised by a scientist, mm-hmm. and was impressed upon him basically methods of rationality, of the scientific method and stuff like that. And so he gets inducted into the magical world, looks around and says, this doesn't make sense, and basically goes through and tries to figure it out. And along the way, we get a lot of motivations of what it means to, be a rationalist, what benefits can it have, and also we get some character growth as Harry starts off a little bit of a dickish nerd, and he grows a little bit by the end of it. So, nice. And for me, I really enjoyed it. There's some really emotional moments talking about what Harry's motivations are, and the kind of a belief in humanity kind of thing. I enjoyed it a lot. So I'm only a couple episodes in, but I'm really enjoying the podcast analyzing it.
So either way, welcome to the Doof Network to them, and mm-hmm. please, if you're listening to this, go and listen to that.
Yeah, if in case you didn't have enough stuff to read, go do that. Speaking of, the other thing I would like to remind you guys, Kingslingers is a podcast on the network now.
Bang, bang.
So Matt and Scott are, again, doing the We've Got Worm treatment instead, this time on Stephen King's Dark Tower series. So if you aren't following at least two Doof reading podcasts,
drop a third in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can totally understand if you're not doing all of them, unless...
But you should.
Yeah. I would say just go ahead and just flash forward to the future, mm-hmm. read all of Ward, then come back and listen to the We've Got Ward episodes as they come out.
Yeah.
Quickly go into a pocket dimension and read all of Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality as well.
Easy.
So you can listen to them as they come out.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, just subsume the knowledge of the Dark Tower series.
Through osmosis.
So you can listen to Kingslingers. And, of course, do the same thing for Pact as Deep Impact finishes up. So exactly. A lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about all of it.
I'm super excited.
And, of course, we have all these other wonderful shows. I need to catch up on What to Say, an OC podcast. There's just some really amazing content created by our doofers. So,
and I think the best way to support us and to support that content mm-hmm. would actually be if you have $1, $5, $10, maybe even more. You can drop it in the Doof Media Patreon.
Yeah,
it's the best way to support us and help us continue to do what we do, and also you get amazing perks too, like access to the Discord, where right now they're voting on the stories that were submitted for the Doof the Right Thing contest.
Yeah, so patrons are currently... The voting for the Doof the Right Thing contest is currently open. The post for that would actually be on patreon.com, on the Doof Media Patreon.
Yes.
So if you are donating at $1 a month or whatever other the you can go on there, read all of the amazing stories. You guys did such a great job editing your stories for the podcast. I haven't read all of them yet, but I'm definitely going to by the time voting finishes. But mm-hmm. every single one so far I've really, really enjoyed. And I don't even know which one I'm rooting for yet. So,
me neither. I'm just gonna watch and see where the chips may fall.
Yeah. So if you're a patron and you haven't voted, go and do it. I encourage you to read a number of the stories before voting, but like so long as you read at least 2, it's okay for you just to vote for one of those. True.
Yeah.
So yeah, please go check that out if you haven't already. There's some really, really good content there, and I can't wait for our special Doof the Right Thing episode,
yeah.
Which as I've mentioned will not be next episode, but the one after that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm super excited about this stuff, and the prizes, of course, are only possible through the wonderful generosity of our patrons.
Exactly, because without you, we won't have $100 to give out.
Yeah.
Fuck, we won't even have $200 to give out.
That's how progression works. That's how escalation works.
Yes.
All right. I think that is finally all I have to say this episode.
So, goodbye.
What are the words next week, Jarvis?
The words for next week are as follows. They are weary, nonchalant, falsify, and silly.
So weary, as in kind of tired. Nonchalant, as in not being chalant. But that's actually like keeping things calm and not like over excited.
Yeah.
Falsify, to make something false. And silly, as in not serious.
Yeah. So, what is your story for next week?
Oh, I'm going first this time.
Yes, we're switching it up.
Well, I'll just keep things nonchalant here. No big deal. I did falsify some documents, like my birth certificate. And I know you're weary of me doing these things. I know it's a lot of escalation. I am being hunted down, but it's just for a silly reason. I've only changed my name to Donald J. Trump and become the president of the United States of America. I don't see what the big problem is. So I think everyone just needs to chill out. So I do have nuclear launch codes though.
Oh,
so
that is a pretty
and I
silly
am
story.
70-something years old.
Just 70-something?
Yeah.
Could be 79, 78.
Yeah.
Well,
so that's me. That's what's going on in Matthias' world right now.
Well, Matthias, I can tell
or
that's...
a Donald world, sorry.
Yeah, the Donald.
Just keep things consistent.
But Matthias, I can tell that you're weary.
Uh-huh.
Because you, as same as I, have seen what it's like to become God.
Okay.
To touch light, and it touch you back.
Okay.
It's beautiful.
Uh-huh.
It is inevitability incarnate.
Okay.
Some might even say that it's silly how good it feels to be a part of a wider purpose, a bigger cause.
Okay.
And that's why we are so adamant at prosecuting all falsified gods. Okay. Anyone who believes that they are greater must be put down so that their place is prevalent.
I don't think they're using words correctly here.
Because if you don't know your place in the world, then how can you possibly understand who is above you?
Okay.
So, that's exactly why Dwight J. Donald had to die as he did.
What is happening?
It was very nonchalant. I just had to smite him when he cursed my name. And that goes to show you that you shouldn't use my name in vain.
What?
I'm not sure. I'm really...
Okay, let's just end this and then we're going to have a long talk about what the hell's going on. I think you had either not any coffee or way too much coffee. So...
I had a lot of coffee. But at the same time, it could have all been decaf. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I just sucked all the caffeination out.
Yeah.
I was storing it so I would have enough energy to do next week's episode of Do the Right Thing.
The Right Thing?
You're supposed to put in the intro music now, Jarvis. Okay, we're done here.
Yeah, we're done here.